Fuck that. I want to be star of the show. I'm headlining this. Fuck Danny Christie. I'm the boss. Do you know what I mean? Maybe he's placed below Danny Christie on the card. He doesn't have the power. He can't control that because the promoter's going to control that. Because at the end of the day, Deca Hickey's just a YouTube fucking fighter. No, even though he's a good bare knuckle boxer, he's just a YouTube fighter. So he's not going to have say on where he's placed on the card. So if you get into the mind of this guy, just the narcissist, he's going, fuck, if I get on that card and I get sparked out and he wins, I'm going to look like a right cunt. Do you know what I mean? That's what I was looking at. And I think they approached him. And I think he refused the offer. And that will never come out if that happened or not, because that information doesn't get released because it's against the law. Do you know what I mean? To release that type of information. I think like a non-disclosure sort of, whether he got the contract or not. Could be wrong about it, but that's just what I seen. And I know the world of fighting. I know the world of promoters, and they do not give a shit what somebody's backstory is. If they're going to bring in money, they're going to sign them, and that's it, straight out.
See, and the other thing, weren't he supposed to be going to America to star in a film? Danny Christie starring in a film. Because he's the better man. He's a better fighter. He's got a much better career ahead of him than what Deca will ever have. I mean, but I have noticed a little pattern forming where Danny Christie got a role in the film, and then all of a sudden, Deca's saying that he's going off to America to star in the film. Nothing's come at that. Nothing's come out of that. So he's jealous of what Danny Christie has made of himself. And, to be frank with you, I mean, Danny Christie's built this all himself, to the fighting stance where he is, to starring in a film, and this is chewing away and eating away at Deca inside.
Well, there's a shout there that, if he didn't have that fight with Deca, that wouldn't have kick-started him. Like, we'll have to sort of call a spade here too. Like, he fought Deca, and that sort of kick-started him into clean living. Like, by Danny's own admission, the night before that fight, he was off his tits. Do you know what I mean? And I like Danny. I think he's a fucking brilliant fighter. I think he's a great. He breaks down fights great. Like, he was talking about the difference between gypsy rules and sort of the BKB rules. The clinch makes the difference, and that's why MMA guys sort of have a better sort of time in the new BKB promotions, because they allow the clinch, which is a big factor. Do you know what I mean? And that's just to touch on that. Deca's not used to a clinch, so Deca's not an MMA guy. So think about this. I have to say this, guys. I have to say this, right? And people aren't watching the little things. At the end of the day, Deca's a fighter, and he knows, right? Danny Christie had trouble with the clinch. He says, I wish I had worked on the clinch a bit more. Deca's never worked on a clinch in his life. He's maybe done a bit of clinch work here and there, but not professional clinch work. Where, like, if he was placed in with an MMA guy, like, say, Dan Vinny just clinches him up, dirty boxing, just annihilates him, just fucking goes in like a gorilla, and just Deca can't get off. He's got him wrapped up in a clinch. He's just battering the life out of him. This is what I'm saying. Deca would have took these into consideration. And I don't mean to keep going back to it, but that's just another factor of why I think that he would never fight in the BKB for the clinch. Even that reason, Deca's not used to a clinch. Do you know what I mean? Danny Christie, it was even a big step for Danny Christie to do that, because the fact that Danny went in there without having a sort of a career with clinch work, fucking fair play to him, because that's chalk and cheese. There's gypsy rules, and then there's fucking clinch work. That means everything. But I will say, would Danny be in the same position that he is in now if he didn't fight Deca a year ago? I'm going to call a spade a spade. I don't know. I don't know. But after that fight, he cleaned his act up.
I mean, sometimes in life, that's what you need, don't you? You need just that
100%.
little something like that. And, I get this distinct belief now, that Danny's in the limelight. He's got that spotlight shining bright on him. And that's eating away at Deca, because he's a better fighter than him. Danny Christie's turned his life around.
Mm,
Everybody's had ups and downs in life, and I think what Decker
I
can't
don't.
get a grip hold of is that Danny Christie's turned his life around, and he's very successful, and that spotlight shining on him. And I just get the distinct feeling that that's just chewing away inside of Decker.
I don't know about the whole better fighter thing. I know Danny Christie's a better boxer and he's more clinical and his footwork's fucking phenomenal. People never give him credit for his footwork. His head movement's brilliant and he's got a wicked jab on him. But I don't. What are we talking about here? A better fighter? We can't really judge it in that fight because both men went in unfit. Deca was overweight. Danny Christie wasn't training for a long time. Deca was just weightlifting. So we can't really judge it in that fight. I stand by what I say in that fight. I understand it was a draw. To me, a draw is a good thing. I don't think either man won that fight. I know Danny Christie turned him into Harry Potter for a couple of months, but I mean, Deca took that
Fucking,
punishment and
he
walked
owed,
forward and just
Dan,
tucked that
Danny,
chin in and just like a fucking gorilla
Danny opened him up.
walked forward. Do you know
Danny
what I mean?
opened him up. Danny opened him up like a tin of fucking beans. I mean,
He did, but I have to stand by my thoughts on that, Steve. And my thoughts are that it was I can understand why it was a draw. At the time I give it to Deca because of just the ferociousness of this guy walking forward. But then you think to yourself, Danny Christie was like 4 stone lighter. Um, he took punishment too. He opened Deck up like a tin of beans, turned him into Harry Potter. So if I had went to Danny for the win, I totally understand. But I can totally understand why that was a draw. But yeah, for
yeah, but if
me,
you, yeah, but
this
if you want to match it like that, all right. I'd probably call it the same way as you. It's a draw. Now let's move on to their next fight. In my opinion, Danny annihilated that guy, and that guy was a tough fucking nut to crack. You know, and Danny
vicious.
Christie fucking viciously that fight was a hard fight for both men.
They
And
annihilated
Danny,
each other, Steve.
yeah,
But
but Danny protruded from that.
this
Now,
that's what I mean.
let's look at the second fight of Deckers against Dean Lynch Ward. There's no
Big up
comparison
Dean.
in.
Big up Dean Lynch Ward. Big up
Yeah,
Dean.
big up, Dean. You're the man for stepping in there, and it takes Bull's heart, to even get between them ropes. I take nothing away from Dean Lynch Ward with what I'm about to say now.
You're gonna
But
destroy him, Steve, aren't you? You bastard. Yeah,
I'm just ma-
you're gonna
I'm
destroy
just
him.
gonna make a I'm just gonna make a comparison between, Danny's fight, which was a hard, solid, fought battle, and then compare it to, Decker's fight with Dean. Total mismatch, and there was no viciousness about it. Decker didn't even get out of first gear. So judging on that, then from the fight that Decker had with Danny, and the fight that Danny had, and the fight that Decker had, you've got to put Danny in the limelight because of that factor, and the hard fight that he had,
100%, mate.
proved to me, out of that Danny was the man, and that's why the spotlight's on him now.
But I always say this: fitness is everything. And Deca went into that fight fit as a fiddle. Like you could tell that he actually put the cardio work in. And without sounding bad to Dean, and I have spoke to Dean, and hope he'll not mind me saying this, but Dean didn't go in too fit into that fight. Like he just didn't. You can see it. He had a belly on him. He just didn't go in fit. He didn't. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know. Maybe he didn't fight in years, and I don't know. Listen, I'm not going to talk about that too much. I just don't know too much about it. I want to get Dean back on to speak about it. But um, Daga put his fucking work in for that fight. But when it came to when it, you see, it's two completely different fights. Daga actually put work in for that fight. With the Danny Christie fight, he was overweight, and I would see when it comes to a guy that's overweight that isn't sort of sparring, and then you've got a guy. I remember watching Danny Christie spar before that Daga fight, and I was watching. I was like, "Fuck, this guy's lethal. He's got a lethal body shot. Like you could see his body shot going in." He's got a lethal jab. He's working, and this always you have to take this into consideration. He's working out on the roads, out in the building sites or something. I think he was a scaffolder, so he's got that strength, and that does help. He's got that natural strength. While Decca's lying about in bed all day doing his little gym workouts, doing bench press and stuff, that means for fuck all. See that functional strength training, like Danny's doing all day with on the building site or the road works, and then he's doing little bits of sparring leading up to the fight. It wasn't an awful lot. That sort of would set you up a lot better to fight a bigger guy, especially when there's no clinch, because they fought gypsy rules, and the gypsy rules was no clinch. It got broke up, and it was just blow for a blow, and a 12 foot by 12. Well, no, was it 12 foot ring? 12 foot wasn't it 12 foot? Was it 12 foot ring or was it 8 foot? 12 foot
I
ring.
think it was. I think it was bigger than what they arranged to fight in. I think
Right.
so.
Okay. So, yeah, so this is what I'm trying to say. Uh, it was a completely different fight. What I would like, actually, I don't want to see it because it's promotion for Deca. Is if what intrigues me is the best word is a fit Deca and a fit Danny Christie. How would that go? Because right now both guys, actually not now, Deca's
Dan,
got a hole in his
Danny,
leg.
Danny's going to flatten him. Danny will prove he's the man on that night. If that was to ever happen, Danny will prove he's the man.
But so
Um,
you have to understand. You have to. I'm just listen. Take away who Deca is. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not backing him because of who. I'm not backing him in any stretch. I'm just trying to. Physically say this here. If a man loses weight, right, and like Deca has, and retains the muscle, and does the sparring, that's a completely different fight. You seen it when he fought Dean. Dean was just no match for him. He was pinpoint. The only thing I could criticize Deca for was his footwork. He lacks footwork. He's a brawler. Chin down, walks forward, takes punishment. He's still done that with Dean, except he had that little bit more. You could just move the head. Now, if Danny and him fought like that, maybe it's still a draw. I don't know. I listen. Maybe I don't know. I'm just giving you my opinion. I think both guys. I think Danny Christie's a ferocious fighter. I think he's a brilliant. I love watching him fight. He's a good lad. Um, you can't say the same about Deca with the shit that he gets up to with what's on his subject access request, the way he treats women, the allegations of other shit. Um, it's just absolutely disgusting, and I wish Danny Christie nothing but the best. I couldn't say the same for Deca. I don't wish him the best because um he just hasn't went out of his way to prove his innocence. And he keeps saying I don't need to, but you fucking do in this world. You're a public figure. Of course you have to prove your innocence. You've chosen to come on to the public platform. And for that reason, knowing what I know now, I would always back Danny Christie, and if there was a second fight between them two, I would be backing Danny Christie 100%.
See, people are saying, "Oh, but Danny's done this and Danny's done that," and we've all done things in our past. But the big difference here is Danny Christie's owned it. Danny Christie's owned his past, so he can move on, and this is the future that he's creating for himself. Whereas Decker, he hasn't owned his shit, has he? He hasn't owned anything from his past. So that's the two different characterized people. Danny's wanting to move on, and to move on, he knew he had to repent his sins, and that's exactly what he's done. Now he's taken the limelight away from Decker, and it's chewing away and eating away in Decker, and
It is, yeah.
you know, this is the difference between the two guys. Now, for you to own your past is to open up the gates for your future, and that's exactly what Danny Christie's done. Like any man would do, except Decker will not own his past. Um, So therefore, Danny Christie's always going to take the limelight away from him, and you know, good on Danny Christie for rubbing it in his face and underneath his nose, because what Danny Christie's got now, he's earned it. He ain't just been given it to him on the plate; he's earned it. Whereas the day that Decker owns his past and repents, is going to be the day that I won't be around no more.
Steve, we've all got skeletons in our closet. Everybody does. Everybody's got skeletons in their closet to some degree. We've got little secrets we don't want to say. Maybe we've done stuff in our past that we don't like. But some people have more skeletons than others. And in regards to Daka, he's got a lot of skeletons in his cupboard. It's being drawn out at the minute in regards to what Dodgy Dave's doing. Now, a lot of people don't. A lot of people disagree with Dodgy Dave's doing. There's a lot of people hate Dodgy Dave, right? Their hate isn't my hate. I respect everybody. I don't I don't beef with anybody on YouTube. If somebody wants to beef with me, they can beef with themselves. Um, but with what Dodgy Dave's doing at the minute in regards to Dega, I don't know if you've seen it. He actually went into the hospital. He exposed that he wasn't in Scotland. And here's another one which is crazy. Somebody wrote in the comment section, and I don't really normally read comments, but somebody wrote in the comments, type in hospital gown onto Amazon and see what pops up. And it did. Took a screenshot and I took it and I looked at the picture, the videos that Decca was putting up. The exact same hospital gown. Now, whether that's just a coincidence or not, I don't know. I'm not saying he's faked this, by the way, because I do legitimately think that the guy, um, there is something wrong with him. I don't think they cut a part of his leg out due to sepsis, but I think something's going on. I think he's in there for some reason. Do I think he's milking it for sympathy? 100%. But what Dodgy Dave's doing to Decca at the minute is crazy. And the fact that he went up there and Decca was in a ward and it was limited visitation. So he couldn't visit. Dodgy Dave couldn't visit Decca without a password. You couldn't just walk in and go, there you go, Decca, there's your subject access request. You had to hand it, you had to knock on the door, and Decca was in a place with limited visitation with some type of password that he's put on there himself. I don't know, maybe that's a hospital protocol, but I think he knows what he's doing. I think he was trying to throw off the scent where Dodgy Dave was. We'll talk about Jack Draper now in a wee minute. Just talking about Dodgy Dave. I know you like Dodgy Dave, particularly myself. I speak to Dodgy Dave behind the scenes. He's not a bad lad. He's never done anything to me. People keep saying to me, but sure, what about the 80-year-old woman? What about this? What about that? At the end of the day, Dodgy Dave isn't a nonce. Isn't that what we're here for? The the I understand that the man's done bad stuff and I don't condone it. And he shouldn't have done it. And he will, he himself is being judged for that. You can't get at anybody for saying, oh, if somebody makes a video about him and saying, I think you're absolutely disgusting, Dodgy Dave, for what you've done, he can't say, well, you're wrong. Because at the end of the day, he done it. But Dodgy Dave's not a nonce. He's not a root. He hasn't destroyed children's lives. He's not a rapist. But what he is doing is he's obtained a subject access request by illegal means. He's shouting it literally from the rooftops. And Decca, instead of him coming out and going, oh, here's the real subject access request, or here's the real Sarah's law, Claire's law, here's the real situation, he's just trying to throw Dodgy Dave off the scent on finding him. And he makes YouTube videos after YouTube videos, Decca, trying to just gain more support from the comment section. And as you see quite recently, the comment section is falling apart for him. Even his own members are turning against him. They're not calling him a nonce. They're not calling him a rapist. But they're clicking on to this guy is telling lies. This guy's a serial liar at the very least. And I could see him making another channel. I could see him going into different avenues because he understands that if you make a new channel means new subs. And he can maybe rile in more clean subs that don't even know who he is. Do you know what I mean? Just my
Mm.
opinion. But I do have respect for Dodgy Dave for what he's doing, because he said, and Dega said, I'm here. You want to come see me, come see me. And Dodgy Dave did. So if Dodgy Dave's lying about this subject access request, then why is Dega not approaching him and facing him head on, man to man, and saying, no, this is wrong? Because he knows it's true. And to say another thing, the first time the Dodgy Dave buggies and Exposure TV showed up at Deca's, regardless of what you think about Exposure buggies and Dodgy Dave, them guys weren't tooled up. But Deca made a video straight away saying these guys are tooled up. They weren't tooled up. They weren't
No,
tooled up at all.
not at all. They had no weapons on them whatsoever. Um, like you said, Roland, the police would have arrested them if they did. But the police never went near them, and that wasn't their intention. To go and cause him harm. Their intention was to light him up. The only way I can explain it to you and for the viewers is the same that Roger Cook used to do back in the day. That's what they went out to do, to light this guy up on his doorstep, not to harm him, but because he's a narcissistic fucking liar that doesn't want to own his past, so he can step forward, and live his future. It's having to make Dave go out, and take action. Plain and simple, we've all done something wrong in our past, but like I say, people keep saying, oh, Dodgy Dave's done this and Dodgy Dave's done that. Like you said, Ronan, it's not nonsense shit. He hasn't raped women and caused their life a misery.
Yeah.
He's not got any child abuse or anything disgusting like that on his record. And what he's doing is one of the greatest things, that could possibly come out of this situation, seeing as Decker isn't going to fucking own it himself.
Listen, yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, Steve. I think that there's no ownership. You can't own it because it's not like you're robbing a bank. There's allegations of rape, nonsense, and how can you own that? You just have to deny it, wouldn't you? If you're that type of a cat, you're just going to deny that stuff because there's no redemption in that. Do you know what I mean? As I say, there's redemption in what Danny Christie done. Do you know what I mean? There's redemption in what Dodgy Dave's done, but there's no redemption if you acknowledge that you were in situations where there's nonsense going on and there's rapists going on. It's just absolutely mental, and you know, I have no sympathy for this guy anymore. I have no sympathy. I used to think, oh, this guy, he isn't this, he isn't that, he isn't a nonce, he isn't a rapist. You know, he's maybe done a few things in his past. But if knowing what I know now, I have no sympathy, no sympathy, and I think it's only going to get worse. And people say to him, "Oh, get off YouTube, get off YouTube." I say, don't get off YouTube, because if you did do these things, which I do believe you have done a few of these things, I'm not saying that
And
everything out in the public domain is the truth about him, then you deserve everything you're getting at the end of the day, don't you?
yep,